I'm Tara Littlefield. I'm a botanist with the Nature Preserves, the Office of Kentucky Nature Preserves. I've been working with Nature Preserves for about 15 years. The first part of my time at Nature Preserves, I was primarily a field botanist, and now I manage our conservation section, which is our team of botanists, ecologists, the plant people, working on monitoring and management and inventory of plants and communities across the state. So you guys have heard from Kendall, who's also our lichenologist, and Devin, Tony, and Heidi will be speaking shortly, so you all will meet them soon. And I know some of you all on the call today, of course, Robert Meyer and Carrie Ruff, and thank you for organizing this, Carrie. I know a few of the park naturalists across the state, but I see this as an opportunity to introduce ourselves to you all and have you all get to know us a little bit more as well. So before I pass it off to Devin, I was going to just kind of give a background on who we are, what kind of programs we work on, some general plant conservation information for Kentucky, and how this could relate back to the state parks that you all work on or work at. So this is probably a slide that you've seen in Shelby and Kendall's presentation. We are a state organization under the Energy and Environment Cabinet with an overarching mission of protecting Kentucky's natural heritage. So like many state organizations, we administer various programs that are all tied to statutes mandated by law. And our plant conservation section primarily works on the monitoring, management, and inventory programs. We're responsible for implementing the Rare Plant Recognition Act, and you can see this highlighted in red section to recognize, conserve, and restore rare and endangered plants. That's the Rare Plant Recognition Act. We create and maintain the state rare species lists. We're also the state cooperators for federally listed plants and at-risk plants in partnership with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and we coordinate the Kentucky Plant Conservation Alliance projects. But there's many other programs at Nature Preserves that we work on. A lot of our plant conservation projects are integrated into our Natural Areas program, our Heritage program, our Heritage Land Conservation Fund program, and the Wild Rivers program. So we're the state's Natural Areas program, meaning we manage a system of state nature preserves that contain some of Kentucky's last greatest places. So some of the best remaining examples of natural communities and plants and animals. The majority of the states across the country have a Natural Areas program, and many states work together through an umbrella nonprofit called the Natural Areas Association, which aims to bring all the natural areas professionals together to support and communicate best monitoring and management practices for our natural areas. So we do a lot of prescribed fire, invasive species management through this program. So together, we manage or oversee easements on 128,000 acres across the state and have been that has been conserved through our nature preserve system or our heritage land conservation program and our Wild Rivers program. So our Heritage Land program is the state's land acquisition program and has bought a lot of conservation lands in the state since 1994. We work with a lot of partners like the Division of Forestry, Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, state parks like you all, county governments, nonprofits to purchase lands for conservation and passive recreation. So one of our main goals with this program is the inventory of plants and animals, as well as the long-term monitoring and recovery of rare plants throughout these managed areas. So we work a lot on land acquisition of key conservation tracts through our Wild Rivers and Heritage Land acquisition programs. So our unofficial goal with our Natural Areas program is to have every species known from Kentucky protected through this system. So we've made tremendous progress with this goal, but many of you all know that the majority of Kentucky is private land, 94%. So we still have a long way to go to increase the amount of conservation lands and species protected in our state. So I know many of you all are familiar with our Heritage Land Conservation Fund program in our state nature preserves because there's a lot of overlap with state parks. So many of you all know our HLCF coordinator, Maddie Heredia, and you know our natural areas managers, Kyle Napier, Jess Slade, and Heather Doolin. And you also, I'm sure, have met Doug, our trails coordinator. So I made this map quickly yesterday to illustrate some of the overlapping areas that we have with state parks. So you all have around 50 state parks scattered across the state. And at 7 of these parks, we co-manage 8 state nature preserves in the park system. So we're also involved in purchasing land for the state park system at 11 state parks. And so for all of these areas, we've completed biological inventories. A few I'll mention that, well, a few of the state nature preserves, you could see them highlighted on the map. Kingdom Come, Pine Mountain, Cumberland Falls, Natural Bridge, Carter Caves, Blue Licks, and Audubon. Those are some of our co-managed state nature preserves. And then a few others that we have been involved with our heritage land program that we have conservation easements on. I'll mention a few: Big Bone Lick, and then some historic sites like Perryville Battlefield and the William Whitley House. So we're also the state's natural heritage program. And for those of you who don't know what natural heritage is, it's essentially the biodiversity of an area, including flora and fauna, plants and animals, ecosystems or communities, and geological structures. So this forms part of the natural resources. So heritage is that which is inherited from past generations, maintained in the present, and bestowed to future generations. So our heritage program, we house all of the rare species and community data for the state, and we work with regional partners like our parent organization, NatureServe, on assessing conservation ranks and distribution of species throughout the state and Kentucky. So, I mean, throughout the state and the region. So through mapping, consistent surveying, analyzing, researching, and ranking, we can better understand the biodiversity of the state and its status. So we work a lot on biological databases, data collection methodologies. We have an online biological assessment mapping tool, which is used for environmental research and review. We act as a clearinghouse for all biological data in the state, and we currently are building a biodiversity database that will house not just rare species data, but information on all plants and animals throughout the state. So this is our heritage database. Has over 20,000 records of conservative plants and animals, and we track over 879 species and communities. And this is 2 years ago, we recently created an online biological assessment tool that we call the Kentucky BAT. And this is used by researchers and for environmental reviews, and customers can submit project areas onto this online website and receive data information on the plants and animals and communities in their project area. They can receive it within just minutes. So it's really cool. Not many states have these resources that readily available. So that's really an exciting thing that we're really excited about. So the state park system contains many records of rare plants and animals, and we currently have 369 populations of rare species or communities mapped in our database in the state park system. So, of course, our co-managed state nature preserves are a large source of these records, but there are many parks that have really important rare species records that are not in our state nature preserve system. So I'll just give a shout out to, like, let's see, the Breaks Interstate Park, Cumberland River Lake, Big Bone State Park, Big Bone Lick State Park, Pennyroyal State Park, Lake Barkley, Jenny Wiley, Perryville. You all have some really great properties that are really important for the biodiversity of our state. So I know you all, the naturalists and managers and park staff, you wear many hats, like a lot of us do in state government. And you probably have an overwhelming amount of work to do, but I wanted to throw it out there that if you're interested in these records at your parks, to please contact us. There's potential to work on some collaborative monitoring and management of these plant and community records at state parks. So please reach out to us if you're interested in that. And you can be an important part of our Plant Conservation Alliance. So to sum it up, nature preserves, what we do in pictures, we work on natural areas conservation and management, biological assessment, and environmental education and recreation. So the past few years, we've really ramped up our educational outreach, and we've been developing trainings for many different groups across the state. So back to the concept of natural heritage. Some of the material from Devin and Heidi's presentations comes from our Kentucky's Natural Heritage book that staff compiled a few years ago. So this book is a great book. It's a great overview of Kentucky's biodiversity and the natural heritage concept. And then I have another book here, Kentucky's Last Great Places by the late Tom Barnes, which is also a great overview of a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So I know many of the gift shops at state parks sell these books, but if you don't have copies, I encourage you all to have these available because they're great resources for the public. So a few notes before I turn it over to Devin, just to talk about the plants in Kentucky. We're a really diverse state, from the mountains in the eastern part of the state to the swamps and coastal plain in the west, and a lot of cool areas in between. We have over 2,400 native plants known from the state, over 400 mosses and liverworts, and over 80 described natural communities. And you all have heard all the cool work that's going on with lichens that Kendall and Dr. Risk have been working on for the past couple of years, and getting all of those new state records for the state. So it's really cool. Something that I find really interesting is that we're still finding new state records of plants, sometimes really showy, pretty plants that we didn't know occurred in our state that are just hiding in different natural areas. And we're also still finding new species known to science in Kentucky. So I think that's really, really cool. You would think that we would know all there is to know about the plants and animals in our state, but we're finding undescribed species still. So, of course, our flora is, the diversity is declining in many areas because of various threats. About 25% of the flora is rare, state listed or federally listed. Globally, it's a little worse, with about 2/5 of plants at risk of extinction. For natural communities, they're also scattered. Natural communities are really just an assemblage of plants. It implies interdependence, codependence, a community of all these different plants growing together. Our classification recognizes 80 different natural communities, and over half of these are of conservation concern. And for federally listed plants, a lot of our staff work a lot on federally listed plants. We have about 50 plants in addition to those 11 that are globally rare. We have worked really hard. I mean, we have 11 federally listed plants, and over the past 15, 20 years, we have worked really hard to delist 2 of those species. So that's actually a big accomplishment, and it takes a lot of effort to ensure that these federally listed species don't go extinct. So that's the reason why we formed the Plant Conservation Alliance, is to prevent state-listed plants from further decline and being listed through the Endangered Species Act. So we also work with the Kentucky Native Plant Society a lot. Several of our staff volunteer and work with them in various capacities, like leading field trips and organizing events and networking. And we work with them closely on Conservation Alliance projects, particularly with outreach, volunteer, and community building. And I wanted to end with just letting you all know that we're working with the Native Plant Society on an upcoming event that you all, I think, should definitely get involved with if you can. It's the Native Plant Society's virtual Wildflower Week. That's April 10th through the 17th. So I know you all at Natural Bridge State Park know that for over 30 years, the Native Plant Society has held a Wildflower Weekend at the park. offering hikes and explorations into the Natural Bridge and Red River Gorge. Last year we had to cancel that for the first time in 30 years. And this year we're still not doing in-person events because of the pandemic. But we really wanted to give Wildflower Week to bring it back. So this year we're hosting a full week, including a week-long statewide botany blitz on Naturalists. So this is an opportunity to broaden our spring wildflower scope to the entire state and allow us to highlight natural areas across the state. So in addition to the Botany Blitz, we'll have virtual field trips from naturalists around the state, online workshops and webinars, and state parks can be a major partner with this initiative. Heidi Braunreiter is heading up this project, so please contact Heidi if you would like to get more involved with this, or you can send an email to our Native Plant Society email, wildflowerweek2021@KNPS. That goes to the Wildflower Committee. We're really excited about this event, and we hope that state parks can become more involved with that.